So I wanted to review a Halloween-themed movie for this month, and I decided to rewatch one of my favorite movies as a kid, Corpse Bride. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Cheyenne, and I'm an Asian American adoptee and expat living in Brazil. I post new videos here every Tuesday and Friday about race, feminism, and pop culture, so if you're into that, please subscribe and ring the bell. So let's just get into it. Part 1. What is Corpse Bride about? So Corpse Bride is about a man named Victor, voiced by Johnny Depp, who's a sensitive and quiet man who likes to draw butterflies and play the piano. His parents are nouveau riche fish merchants who want him to enter an arranged marriage with Victoria, voiced by Emily Watson, who's also a sensitive and quiet soul with supposedly wealthy parents. In reality, Victoria's family is completely broke and they've arranged this wedding in order to get Victor's money. However, Victor's parents are just as vain and they only want Victor to marry Victoria because she's supposedly wealthy and also has these supposed connections to higher places. Both children are soft and gentle as opposed to their loud and rude and unruly parents, which of course makes them a great pairing for each other. Upon meeting one another, they find common ground and realize that they can make this arranged marriage work. But Victor can't seem to get his vows right because of his nerves, so he runs off into the forest. There, he practices his vows and recites them perfectly, and then takes Victoria's ring and puts it on a branch of a tree. But of course, this isn't a branch at all, but in fact, the hand of Emily, or the Corpse Bride. Emily, played by Helena Bonham Carter, takes Victor to the land of the dead, where everything is of course much more lively than up above. We then learn that Emily was killed on her wedding night by her husband and vows to never wake up until she hears a confession of true love. Victor then tries to escape from the underworld, but Emily discovers his ruse and also discovers that he's actually betrothed to Victoria. She then angrily takes him back to the underworld and the two wallow a bit, but then they realize that they actually have more in common than they originally thought. It then seems as though the story is going to go into this liar revealed trope because Emily discovers that Victor can actually leave at any moment because they're not actually married since their vows only bind them until death and Emily's already dead. It appears as if Emily is going to try to trick him and make him drink poison unknowingly so then he's stuck down there with her forever, but then Emily admits that she could never do that to him and thus illustrates her true love for Victor. Victor overhears all of this and then says that he is willing to die for Emily, so the two then plan to go upstairs and have their official wedding ceremony. In the meantime, as Victor is nowhere to be found, Victoria is betrothed to another man named Barkis Bittern, voiced by Richard E. Grant. Barkis just wants to marry Victoria for her money, and Victoria's parents just want her to marry Barkis for his money, but guess what? None of them actually have any money. Upon discovering this, Victoria and Barkis part ways. In the meantime, the dead walk among the living, at first scaring the villagers, but then giving them a new lease on life. They head to the church for Emily and Victor's wedding, but Emily sees Victoria waiting in the wings and realizes that she can't go through with this wedding. She states that she doesn't want to take happiness away from another bride, like her happiness was robbed from her. But then Barkis comes back and Emily reveals to everyone that he was the man who killed her for her money. Barkis and Victor get into a sword fight, and Barkis then drinks the poison that was meant for Victor and dies. Emily then says goodbye to Victoria and Victor, and now free, she evaporates into a sea of butterflies and floats up into the air. The end. So part 2, why this is a Beauty and the Beast story. So just from the summary, you can already see that there's a lot of Beauty and the Beast elements in this story. The Gaston-like villain, the theme of arranged marriage and true love, and of course monsterhood. Who is the real monster at the end of the day? It's not Emily, it's Gaston. Barkis. And of course, just like Beauty and the Beast, we have a small provincial town or village where all the townsfolk care about are looks. Money. And this is where the two kind of veer off from each other. Whereas Beauty and the Beast is more about appearances and looks, The Corpse Bride is more about greed. For example, Victor and Victoria's marriage is only a thing because both of their parents want each other's money and the privilege that comes with it. Farkas also just wants to marry Victoria for her money and vice versa. Well, at least Victoria's parents. And lastly, Emily is killed over money. And I personally don't really have an opinion about that. I think both themes are important. Some people really just care about looks, other people just really care about money. However, I do think that Beauty and the Beast's themes of looks and appearances does make more sense considering it's about beastlyhood, whereas Corpse Bride, being about greed, doesn't really have anything to do with her being a corpse. I feel like the theme should have been more about death, but I honestly think that it's a really hard story to write a theme for, especially if you're trying to market this movie to kids. So greed was just an easy way out, I guess, and it does at least tie into the story a lot, so that's good. They do try to get in a message about looks when Victor tells Emily that he would never marry her because of the way she looks, but she's also dead. So I guess that's why they changed the theme from appearances to greed, because at least in Beauty and the Beast, Belle can still marry the Beast because at least he's alive. But I don't know, Victor can still marry Emily even though she's dead, and in the end of the movie, that's the message we get. That love truly does conquer all, no matter what you look like, even if you're a zombie. However, I do find it strange that Victor also loved Victoria, but then was totally into marrying Emily when that didn't work out. But that's fine, I'm not gonna read too much into that because, you know what, it's not that deep. But anyway, confusingly enough, this movie is both about greed and appearances. Even though it's very confusing, I still really do like this story, especially the more Beauty and the Beast elements. Even down to the town being given new life when all the dead people return, much like how when the furniture turns back into people and are reunited with their loved ones in the new Beauty and the Beast remake. Another very refreshing thing is that there is no liar revealed or plot twist, even though it could so have easily been forced in. Instead, everyone just acts like real people. Victor and Victoria are kind and sensitive and gentle, and they actually talk to one another and work things out. It could have been so easy to make them resent each other because they're in this arranged marriage, but instead they understand the responsibilities they have and that they need to make this thing work, and that was just so refreshing. And even though they have very similar names, they have two separate personalities. Victor is clumsy, whereas Victoria is outspoken and brave. I also love how Victor and Emily's love starts to blossom and how they have shared interests, like they play the piano, and how they also have some quiet scenes together where they just talk. In addition, Emily, like Victor and Victoria, is also quiet and sensitive, but she's also not afraid to go after what she wants. I also really love how Emily doesn't give up in the idea of true love and romance even after her fiancé killed her, and how she still has hope in humanity. It's just really a happy and fun movie, and though there are songs which are kind of distracting and annoying, they don't really get in the way of the movie because they are so extremely short. I also really find it clever that we never see what Emily looked like when she was alive. Even when she dies, we don't see her human soul depart her body, or we never see a photo of her of what she looked like when she was alive. She simply turns into butterflies and floats away. The beast or monster usually has to turn back into their human form at the end of the movie, but Emily doesn't, and it's just such a good choice. It's also such a great movie because Emily and Victoria never fight over Victor or have a catty thing going on. Instead, Victoria is just afraid of Emily because she's undead, but she never tries to send an angry mob after her or anything. It's just such a nice and sweet and short movie that I think anyone could enjoy and also kind of relate to. Another great thing in this movie is the world building. Something that really annoys me about world building is when it gets too bureaucratic. We see it with the Umbrella Academy and the Commission, where they feel the need to over-explain everything, and then of course with Coco, where like the underworld is just totally bureaucratic and people have jobs and there's like technology. Like, why? The Corpse Bride explains nothing about the world of the undead, but like it never really needs to. We don't care or need to know what laws govern the underworld if people have jobs, who can't be there, etc. For example, people don't chase after Victor because he's not supposed to be there. There's no bureaucracy Victor and Emily have to go through to get to the other side. The Elder just cracks an egg and lets magic do its thing. Even when we get that kind of bureaucratic law at the end that says that Emily and Victor aren't really married because Emily's dead, it doesn't turn into like this whole liar revealed thing where Emily's trying to secretly kill Victor or that they have to go to the undead lawyer's office to figure this out. They just decide, hey, let's get married and go upstairs, and then they have a big parade and that's it. And it's really fun. It's just so much more fun that way, and despite what CinemaSins says, you don't always need to explain every bit of world building to us. Sometimes things can just happen, and we as the audience should go along with it and suspend our disbelief. I again also love how people act like real people in this movie and actually communicate. For example, when Victor overhears that Emily and him aren't really married, he actually talks to her and confronts her about this and doesn't try to like run away again. Victoria also does try her best to escape when her parents think that she's crazy when she's raving about this corpse bride, and she actually goes to someone who she thinks that she can trust, the head of the church. Lastly, we rarely see Beauty and the Beast reverse stories. For example, when the woman is monstrous or beastly and when the guy is just a guy, and I thought that that was really awesome. I personally think that the only weak part of the movie are the villains, for example Barkus and the parents, but I get why they're there. I think that Barkus is the weakest though. Like, did we really need to know who killed Emily? At that point the film was already wrapping up and it just seemed as though they needed to force in like this climactic sword fight at the end. But I do like the commentary that they do with Barkus at least. Like, some men are just psychopaths that want to kill women and want to possess them as trophies and objects. Another weird part of the movie besides the villains is the skeleton named Bone Jangles, portrayed by Danny Elfman. He puts on like this whole jazz persona, which is kind of reminiscent of like maybe the crows from Dumbo, and it's questionable at best. I mean, it is a fun jazz song, but it is kind of uncomfortable to sit through. But thankfully, after like his 2-minute song, Bone Jangles never comes up again, and neither does like jazz music. Overall, I think the movie still holds up really well, especially because it never tries to like over-explain anything, and it's just so earnest and I think personally really creative. I would definitely give it a watch this Halloween. So part 3. Is Corpse Bride problematic? So I think around a year ago, The Princess and the Scrivener, which is a channel here on YouTube that analyzes movies, did Burton Miss, where they analyzed Tim Burton's oeuvre, and one video caught my eye. And that video was about Corpse Bride, and I think that you should definitely watch it for yourself because it's actually quite interesting. Sarah brings up the fact that even though The Corpse Bride might be based on a Jewish folktale, it doesn't really matter because Tim Burton's not really interested in the ethnic origins of fables, he just cares about their universality. And this doesn't just go for Corpse Bride, but also for Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, where Burton kind of glanced over the whole Holocaust backdrop. Tim Burton, when questioned about the whiteness of his work, infamously said in a Bustle interview in 2016 that, "Nowadays, people are talking about it more. Things either call for things or they don't. I remember back when I was a child watching the Brady Bunch, and they started to get all politically correct. Like, okay, let's have an Asian child and a black. I used to get more offended by that than just... I grew up watching blaxploitation movies, right? And I said, that's great. I didn't go like, okay, there should be more white people in these movies. And yeah, I think a lot of white people, but especially white people around Burton's age, definitely think that when you make something ethnic, it loses its universality. For so long, whiteness has been default, it has been the blueprint, and it has been universal. And when you add ethnic things to a work, for example, people of color or non-Christian elements, it can alienate some white audiences. And presumably, white people is where the money's at. So what Burton is trying to say, in not a very veiled way, is that he needs to cater to these people because he wants to make money like we all do, and I get it, but it doesn't make the quote any better. He, like many other white people, grew up in a time where whiteness was default and whiteness was put first, and adding in people of color to these people seems forced to them, as if you're forcing diversity. As for the blaxploitation part of the quote, I'm not going to get into that, but let's just say that adding in people of color in the Brady Bunch is different than adding white people in blaxploitation movies. Those are not the same things. What a lot of white people fail to recognize is that pushing for diversity in movies isn't us trying to upstage white people or take their things or even change history. It's just about us valorizing our viewpoints and valorizing the viewpoints of marginalized groups that have been pushed down for so long. I made a whole video about forced diversity, especially in the new Disney remakes, and how a lot of people see people of color in these movies, especially the historical ones like Mary Poppins, and they see people of color in these movies and they're just so aghast, like they can't even believe it. And it's like, people are flying in this movie and you don't think that there can be black people in London in the 1930s? This idea of forced diversity is so detrimental because it basically claims that people of color have never existed in white spaces such as the past when we've always existed. And sometimes we've existed in a very close proximity to white people. But old movies from the 1950s won't necessarily show you that, so we have people growing up watching these movies thinking that was what the past was really like, when no, black people, Asian people, Native people existed in close proximity with white people and always have. Just because old movies like to put people of color in certain positions, either as caricatures or as servants, or it's always portraying them one way, doesn't mean that that was the life of all people of color. And in today's world, this pushback against forced diversity in, for example, Disney remakes, or pushing for more people of color in white-centered media, it makes it seem as though you're saying that people of color now ruin these things for you, and no, we don't. The myth of the universality of whiteness is detrimental to representation and detrimental to the actual real-life lived experiences of people of color. But honestly, for all I care, Burton can continue to make his white-centered movies because, honestly, do we really even want him tackling people of color at this point? Especially after seeing the caricature of Toshiaki in Frankenweenie. So, the conclusion. In all, I really like Corpse Bride. I like how it's a gender reversal of the Beauty and the Beast story, and how the main characters are a lot more kinder and gentler and quieter than the characters in the Disney movie. It has more faith in the townspeople towards the end, and also the main characters don't just scream at each other angrily until they fall in love with one another. I personally really hate the enemies to lovers trope, and I like how in this movie it's friends to lovers, because in my opinion that just makes more sense. Of course, Corpse Bride is unbearably white, but there's nothing we can really do about that at this point. The stop motion and claymation does really hold up well today, and of course it makes the movie so much more atmospheric than if it was hand-drawn or with real people, and their choppy movements definitely make more sense, of course, because they're supposed to be dead. Claymation and stop-motion animation does seem to be a really popular medium during Halloween, and I think obviously that was kind of started by Burton himself with The Nightmare Before Christmas. I also forgot to mention that I'm pretty sure Tim Burton's aesthetic of like the big eyes and like the very small like part of the face like down here like with the nose and mouth definitely inspired a few Instagram artists, or at least the Instagram aesthetic of today, where everyone loves drawing girls with like huge eyes and a very small chin. Anyway, that's it for the video. Thank you for watching. If you've watched The Corpse Bride recently or have thoughts on it, please leave your comments down below. And of course, what do you think of forced diversity in movies? That's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new here, I post new videos every Tuesday and Friday, so if you want to see them, please subscribe and ring the bell. And of course, if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. Again, leave a comment, subscribe, ring the bell, and of course, share this video with someone who might enjoy it. So my next video is going to be about not all Asians look the same. So if you want to see that again, please subscribe and ring the bell so you're notified every time I post a new video. Thank you so much to my subscribers and my patrons, and I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks again for watching. Bye.